she had a lot of gratitude about getting back into the industry, but it's more like the industry is really lucky to have her.
Yeah, is Jackie just what CMF designers are like? Because if so, they're way genius compared to industrial designers. Like, or she's a unicorn, I don't know, but she really thinks about things in such a meaningful, deep way. I was inspired for sure.
I think there are many flavors to CMF designers, and Jackie is someone very technical, but also someone who really thinks a lot about every decision and is questioning and strategizing during the process. And even though I work with her, I still just couldn't believe the amount of information she shared today that I wasn't fully aware of. I can keep listening to her for hours.
Yeah, so I'm so curious. This is an interesting behind the scenes thing for us. She has all that knowledge we know now after the episode. On your team, does she actually come in and lay all of that out, or is she just doing most of that work to create a very bite-sized version that she presents?
I think she always laid out, and we had conversation why we think of certain material, why we think of certain color, what can we do to improve. However, sometimes when there is cross-functional meeting and engineers, PMs, we see that I would say design is in danger. She can just jump in with 2 sentences and bring everyone to the point when they understand the struggle that industrial design would have.
Yeah, that's a pretty unique skill. I mean, not every designer can just do that. That's difficult.
I mean, imagining explaining to the business side why we have to maintain 5 SKUs instead of 3 when they change sort of the approach of how we're selling it at retail or whatever. That seems incredible to me. I can't imagine design having a logical enough, grounded enough rationale for the rest of the team to go for it. I think it's pretty remarkable, honestly. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Beyond Ray podcast. Today it's Ginger, Margaret, and I, and we're joined by Jackie Shyu, who leads the CMF team at Meta. Jackie, we're so excited that you're joining us today.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I think to start off the conversation, just go ahead and introduce yourself, your work now, and maybe give us a little context on your career path into the job you have now.
So I started my career path as a color stylist, and then I changed my role to a CMF engineer for many years, where I really got a chance to really work with varieties of materials and, plastic, coating, metal, and textile, you name it, and then really know how to get the material made by choosing the right process to get the details dialed in for each material. After several years being in that role, I started to question my job a lot. I started to think about something missing over there without a really clear vision and point of view around what CMF should do and should deliver. I feel like my job created a lot of waste, a lot of things that not really good for this environment and not really good for the consumer either. So I decided to, take a step back, and then I go back to school. I got my design background, and I switched my career path again back to a CMF design role, where I really start to wrap my head around how can I craft a clear CMF point of view that supports design decision-making process that could really help us have a focused idea around what should goes on the product and why. Be able to really answer the question why and what and how to make it. So yeah, so this is kind of like where I landed right now.
So when you first entered the job force, what was that degree that you had to be a color engineer?
I had a science material background as my bachelor degree, and I got my design background here at Stanford Business School to really focus on design philosophy and strategic thinking. So I have two backgrounds.
So when you were like questioning, your place in this process and what kind of decisions were being made with these materials for products, how did you know, like, I need to get a design background to do what I want to do? Or did you think I could do what I want by changing jobs? Or did you know you had to, like, shift disciplines? What was the indication? Or did you, like, have to talk to people to find out?
I didn't know what the right thing to do at that time. I just started to question my job. I don't know what I'm doing there. I need a clear direction in what I need to make. So I think probably that's how we're, an engineer role normally have that problem, because we kind of like do a lot of execution work instead of really provide a direction to the overall design process. So I just got across to this classes and the lessons from design school, and then I think I have to say that I got a really good opportunity to work with a really great group of people who are really strategic thinking people. Every time when we start working on a product design, the first thing we got questioned by our leadership team was like, why do we do this? We need really to understand why. And in order to answer that question, you really need to understand who you are designing for, who are your audience, what they care about, how to inspire them. And I also got a chance to work with marketing team and brand team closely around what CMF could help shape the brand image. This is how you show up in the work to say who you are. While learning and doing the work, I start to feel like, oh, this is the area I need to build my skill set. And this is the area, the part of the stage in the overall CMF design development process. Kind of like got me into a opportunity where I experienced the whole process from design to development. That's where I think really well-rounded professional setting for me. That's how we set up our CMF team. We have two disciplines within the CMF team. We have CMF designers, and we also have CMF developers. So we know what we should put on the product, and we also know how we make the product, how we scale, how we deliver the design intent through the right process.
So at Sonos, you were still in an engineering role, but you were exposed to more and more people sort of making you think about the why behind the decisions you were making. And that was what you identified as a more design approach, like the thing you wanted to work more on.
Yeah, I switched my career path, I think maybe 1 or 2 years after I joined the team, switched my career path from engineer role to a designer role. Yeah.
I liked what you said about the how. You said that it's really important to be able to answer why in your design choices, but you also mentioned that you need to be able to answer the how. And that's something that maybe designers overlook, because we often will hand off the thing to somebody that is sort of going to answer the how for us. How does that shape your decision-making process? Or, does that come into the CMF conversation very early?
I think so. I think that's kind of like go back to a fundamental question around the overall CMF design, even though it starts with C, with color. But to me, I think it's really a material-led process. Material is really the DNA there, because every material has its own set of color and finish. For instance, like a desert color, a shade of tan or sand. It can look very beautifully in a natural leather material in a very honest way, and also can be translated very beautifully into a textile material with that intriguing textile pattern and textures, but it can look very muddy and dirty in elastomer. So you have to build a practical knowledge of material finish to really understand color and how color behaves, how material behaves, and where to use them. So to me, CMF design is really a combination of aesthetic and knowledge of material and finish. I think we kind of like talked about that before, like we can in very different with different backgrounds, expertise. There are a lot of CMF designers actually came in with industrial design background. So that probably make people think it's a very natural process for industrial design to do a CMF design job or make a CMF design decision. But we should not underestimate the effort those people put into build their practical level material and technology experience through the years after they switch their career path. It's really not an easy process. And I know some CMF professionals, they came from industrial design background, like we said, and graphic design background and material engineer background. We all can indirect with different expertise. That really makes this field become very unique and valuable. Yeah, so really to me, CMF is not only about color. It's really a combination of material finish, and material is the DNA there.
So expanding on that practical knowledge that you're talking about and how all of these colors and these materials and finishes have these very unique properties that you need to have experience with. Is it better to cultivate knowledge on the job, or is it only possible to do that? Like, how much can someone prepare themselves for a CMF career in school? And, like, what are they doing to best position themselves at that point in time?
Yeah, and also, how can someone get interested in CMF? Because in design schools, it's usually the side subject, and many people are not looking at it as something serious. And like, how do you get passionate about it?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a combination of you need to have innate sensibility to design, to articulate design philosophy and the knowledge of practical level material and technology. However, in this field, you can also master within one or two stage and components. Well, somebody really well-rounded the overall process, the skill set from both design and development process. So we are varied. I know I feel like every organization kind of like set up CMF organization or this discipline is a little bit different. Some team is really focusing on trend focused, mood boards, storytelling, which is good, which is also very important component in the overall process. But some organizations set up this team to cover both design and development process. I have to say, if you are a student in the school and you are really passionate about those hands-on work, you really want to learn how to get your hands dirty, you study, you learn, you work with different materials. That's a way to get into this field, definitely. And then for the people who has really good design sensitivities, really love to do exploration work, trend focus works, that's also another way to, it's kind of like we call that traditional CMF designer, like focusing on trend research and mood board storytelling, very critical. We need this skill set as well. So that's why I feel like we can indirect, really varied with different backgrounds. And also it depends on how the organization wants to set up this team here, what the value you want to get out of this discipline.
Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you too, But I think in design schools, like traditional industrial design program, they try to teach you CMF, but I would say in a very naive way. At least in my school, I remember that each project was like finished by, let's say, 3 weeks of like the CMF study, which meant we were supposed to take whatever we designed during semester and then make color propositions. And it always ended up that one being female, which was kind of like pink and bluish. There was one masculine when we were taking something and making it in black and like the poison yellow or red and like, Ferrari as inspiration. And it had like 0 sense. And I was thinking, yeah, this is like colors, materials, sure. We can also put something which is obviously designed for like injection molded in wood, because that's another finish, another material. And I left school with like 0 practical understanding of the value, of what hides behind these 3 letters, CMF.
Yeah.
I think there's so much more could be done for people to have like more respect, because then you go on a job and you get a CMF designer to work with you. And I feel like some designers would be like, get out of here, it's my project, I know better. And then the first parts come from a factory and it's like, oh yeah, could you please come help me?
Yeah, you even maybe did more than we did. We had like some projects where we were emulating a company's branding. It was like, make this and pretend you work at Muji and make it match like the look and feel of a product like that, right? And so then you had to like look pretty specifically into how that company established their brand look and feel. And there was some learning in that, but not teaching you really at all how to do effective research, like even trend research, let alone material and finish research, which, Jackie, actually, could you teach like a 5-minute course on how a designer is gonna do effective research? What do you lead your team in trying to do when you have a new project land on your desk?
Cool. I will try to make it within 5 minutes.
I mean, I know that it's not. It just is so that somebody has like a shot in hell doing that all.
So I always think about how we can bring logic into this very subjective field, because the biggest challenges we have been facing every day is the CMF or color decision can become very opinionated. But to me, you really want to bring the logic in. At the end of the day, it's a strategic choice. How to do that? First of all, I think understand why. Understand your user, understand who you are designing for, who the right audience, what they care about. And also at the same time, work with your brand team, marketing team, understand your brand image, right? You can see some companies' product has very focused and consistent portfolio look and feel, very neutral colors, black and white on their product. That delivers a very clear message to the consumer who they are, that helps you to build that emotional level of engagement with your consumer. That's how you matters. And then you can push, or you can introduce the colors, the expressive, bold, fresh, signal colors through limited edition, special edition, partnership. I always feel like a color needs context. Color needs good story to support that. To make it less personal, less subjective, that's where you should start from. And second, you need to understand the material goes on your product. What should go on your product? What are the CMF choice and specification you could put over there? Like I said, every material has its own set of color, and getting color matching across all different materials and parts is never ever easy, especially when you try to deliver a monolithic look and feel. Every color behaves differently, every material behaves differently, and you have also need to understand there's a limitation in each material and color. And then the last but not the least is how. You have to work with your engineer team and vendors closely. That's the key. That really make your prototype meaningful. I have to say, like, we have been one of the reasons why I questioned my job several years ago when I was in an engineer role, because we have been developing so many different prototypes, different parts in different colors, but none of them really delivers what the designers wants to deliver. And the biggest question is, like, as a designer, you need to ask yourself, do you really know what you want to deliver? Do you really have a good answer to that? A lot of times, oh, I need this to be a little bit blue, a little bit yellow, a little bit darker or less. Before we, as a designer, I'm very cautious every time when I say that. I really need to give a good reason to my team, say why this needs to be a little bit darker. What's the logic behind that? What the problem it can solve? And providing a clear direction as a designer to the team is so important. When you do color research, and also I think it's related to the marketing proposition, the timing you're going to launch your product, and also how many color SKUs you're going to launch together. To me, when I evaluate color, I'm not evaluating color as a standalone. I'm evaluating that as a family, as a group of color, because we really need to balance the dark and light, bright and neutral, to make sure if you launch 5, those 5 colors need to work together. If you launch 3, they need to work together. And that cannot be changed in the process, I have to say, because there was a case I worked on before. Initially, we designed a group color of 5, and we landed a really beautiful 5 colors that complement to each other. However, down the road, we got a request from operation team that 5 colors is really a lot. It's really hard for us to manage all of them and launch at the same time. Totally understand where they're coming from, but reducing 5 colors to 3 is not a simple aesthetic problem, because the overall look and feel is broken. It's just broken. I really couldn't get 3 colors work together and balance each other. But if you told me in the beginning we only launch 3 colors, I may give you 3 different colors instead of just remove the other 2 from 5.
So what was the solution in that instance? Like, did you found 2 colors to remove? No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we tried really hard as a group of people. Like, we tried, how about this 3, and what's the story we can deliver by only using those 3? It just tried really hard, but we just feel like, no, it's impossible. The overall story is broken. We either just, start from scratch and redesign those 3 colors, or we have to get an agreement with our cross-functional team that, hey, understand how challenging it is, but we really need to deliver the right story. So we end up managing getting all those 5 colors launched at the same time. That was a big win. But it kind of it's a very special experience to me personally as well. That's the first time I started to understand, it's really, we couldn't evaluate any color as a standalone. Color needs context. You need to evaluate the family portfolio level, but also at the same time, that's kind of like how you try to avoid a situation like, oh, I like this color, or I don't like that color. There's no good and bad colors. As a group, they really need to work together, because you design for the same group of audience. And you also want to make sure you cover the right range of audience. You want to make sure you covered female audience, male audience, cover different usage case, outdoor, fitness, workout, a lifestyle. So you need to deliver a group of things to cover different needs, to be able to, because it's so personal, right? There's no single color can meet everyone's need, everyone's required, and be loved with everyone. It's impossible.
Yeah, it sounds like CMF is like even one step up from industrial design, where you often need to justify your decisions. And someone from business school would just tell you, well, I like it or I don't like it. But at least this is a product. When it comes down to choosing a color, you're even in harder position to tell someone from marketing or operations team that, well, no, I can't just remove a color or I can't just change it. And to explain that there is a story and it's not random.
Yeah, definitely. And I think your brand team and marketing team are your good partners to craft the story together, because we also want to make sure you deliver a cohesive experience from digital to physical, from packaging to products. So they are your good partners to craft the story together. And this color news story. I also had an experience before, like the marketing team came to us like, hey, Jackie, we need to make a red color on this product. It's like, why? Why is red? Right? Are we collaborating with Red Cross organization, or what's the story behind that? This kind of instance happens very often in our field. So there are a lot of education and collaboration needed between teams cross-functionally to really help them understand how we work, where we're coming from, what our design decision process looks like. I have to say, you have to repeat, and repeat. It's not something can be, delivered across the board once or, easily.
I have so much respect for how grounded you are in the value of the work that you provide and what an impact that can have. Do you also do majority of your own research on your team, or are you incorporating a lot of research from other teams into the story that you're trying to craft? Because it's very logic-based, which also seems super significant in it holding water in, at the table with business or operations or whatnot.
Yeah, when we start a new project to provide CMF solution or color proposals, we normally started from collecting information, putting context together. That's where we start to engage with marketing, brand, and PM team. After we collect the right information we need, we understand user profiles, typing, SKUs, and everything. We start to do color research by ourselves, on our own, within our team. We have CMF designers who's focusing on trend research, and we got inspired by different industrials, really focusing on consumer tech. We work with different trend focus agent like WGSN. We work with them very closely as well. Then really put together a CMF story. I have to say that it's quite difficult because we can have a tendency that to go really broad, and then CMF story can become very weak. That's kind of like a very normal thing happens every day, and so we really have to find a logical way to really get our story, our narrative focused. That needs practice. As a CMF designer, you really need to practice that level of skill set. You really need to be able to clearly tell your story, let's say, within 1 or 2 sentences instead of 10 pages. Just remember, nobody can really look at your presentation for over 3 minutes. It's really hard for people to focus. So you need to get a point quickly and clearly. But the design decision-making process also needs to include the CMF iteration process, model making process. You need to make the thing. You need to translate the color into the right material, right form factor. Where I think this is where is the art of integration between CMF design and the industrial design. This is where architecture meets its own set of color, material, and finish. We build our collective point of view together with industrial design to land a design intent. And then we start to work with the operation team, engineer team, and vendors to really translate that to a reproducible process and be able to scale from 1 to 1,000 to millions sustainably. overall from beginning to the end, this is how our team set up. Like recently, Margaret and I have been working on this new programs, and we started from this material exploration work. This is really where, where my passion is at. It's really got me very excited. Starting from material exploration, this is how I think we set up as a CMF team here.
Yeah, and it's cool listening about like choosing different color groups for a launch of product. But like it's worth to say that it's just a fraction. Like usually I think like 95% of work is like black and white, and still the whole team of people is busy every single day.
So from an organizational standpoint, when you're doing a material exploration, assume it's something like pretty new and novel, how is that initiated? Is it from a like technological standpoint that there's like materials that are new to world, or you're trying to find something that hasn't been done within your org before? Does the CMF team like lead that effort and say, puts a flag in the ground, we're going to do a material exploration now? Or is it like requested from leadership or something? How does that decision get made?
It's a collaboration between CMF design, ID design, and our engineer team, because the material is not only going to meet the design requirements, but also needs to meet the mechanical structure requirements as well. But it also needs to solve the problem, to solve the problem that user has been having on existing products, for instance, based on the usage case. For instance, I always start from like, what is the usage case of this product? If you are designing a product for, like, say, an outdoor product, the material you're going to choose to put on the product is definitely going to be different than the material you will choose to put on a stationary product. The material for outdoor product needs to be more durable, needs to have much better like UV resistant, chemical resistant, and needs to be able to throw on the ground, bump into the rock. You need to understand the usage case. You need to understand what kind of problem the user gonna bump into when using your product, and how to solve that problem by choosing the right material and the right color as well. Because believe it or not, color is also related to solar absorption. That's what I learned recently. In order to reduce the solar absorption, actually, the light color versus dark color can make huge day and night difference. No matter what kind of technology and material you put underneath, the color plays a huge role there. You have to have that understanding, and starting from there to understand the usage case of the product. And also for the comfort issue, right? What's the right material deliver the right level of comfortable to your consumer? That's really a collaboration between design and engineer team. I have to say it's kind of like a problem-solving process. Logically choose the right material for the right product. And of course, in this process, as a CMF team or designer, we also need to lead a conversation and provide the feedbacks and suggestions around if this material, what does it really mean to deliver a good cosmetic look and feel. For instance, if we choose a glass fiber PC or glass fiber filled plastic for a really good reason for the structural reasons. But we know we can never deliver a good cosmetic look and feel in glass-filled plastic. As a consumer, you will see that fiber is just flowing on the surface. So is that the right thing you want to do, right? And is there any way that you could hide that cosmetic defects? What you can do there? Or you pick another different material that could meet both functional and aesthetic requirements. At the end of the day, it's to meet both aesthetic and functional requirements. That's how you make the decision.
You must have such like either a field day laughing or internal pain when you look at like design portfolios and people do those little exploded views and they're like, it's going to be this type of plastic and this type of like, it just that level of detail is incredible. I'm sort of curious about like soft touch plastics or fabrics that are on the surfaces of things. How do you think about like really, really tactile experiences that people are going to have with products?
Yeah, for the highly touched products, that delivering the right level of tactility is very important. That's also a nice detail to connect people emotionally, right? You want it to be warm to touch, comfortable to touch. And also it's not slippery when people use the product if it's a highly touched product based on the usage case. To deliver that type of nice details, textures, tactility, definitely there are so many different ways to do that, so many different materials you can choose. It could be the fabric, the textile materials. It could be also the nice textures that you mold it into the plastic, or it's a nice like soft touch coating you apply on the plastic. Definitely, there are a lot of different ways to do that. That can really got me excited. I cannot stop talking about that.
It's so cool. Yeah. What's your favorite sense to appeal to or like psychology approach to think about when you're really getting in the nitty-gritty?
I would say two important approaches. One, emotional attributes that from color selection. Again, like as a consumer, we all have that experience. We gravitate to different colors at different time. Sometimes, like when we do color research, we have to really understand what's going on in the world from like technology, economy, society, what's going on in the world that everything can contribute to how people's attitude and emotion and at the end of the day, how they gravitate to color or product design. I feel based on our research recently, like after this like 3 years pandemic, people's attitude and emotional towards color become very polarizing. That was the 3 years you start to reflect your life deeply when you couldn't go anywhere. You are locked in the room, in the house. Out of that pandemic time frame, some people really gravitate to something very simplified, neutral, to the ground, earthy tone. But some people really gravitate to something very bold, very joyful, very expressive, become very polarizing. It's different. So color is really a visual tool to help you engage with people emotionally and evoke the feelings, the emotions. That's emotional attribute. Second is functional attributes. You also want to make sure you deliver the right experience through CMF solutions. You don't want your product or your color faded after 2 months in use. You don't want the surface got scratched right away after being used. So choosing the right material and the finish to deliver the right user experience become very important too. So to me, it's really think about this from both aspects, both emotionally and functionally. At the end of the day, it's all about the user experience.
Do you guys think about, because you mentioned like not wanting a product to fade in its color after too soon, that like that would be sort of a flaw or low quality. Do you think about the way a material patinas, or do you try to project into the future about what the patina will look like over X period of time?
Patina, that's very important. I always think about you have to use the material and color in a very honest way. For some material like natural leather, the patina look and feel is so natural, it's so valuable. That should be happen. It should be wear out. That's the material that's designed for that. That's the value of that material. You really don't want to make a natural leather performs like a plastic. Technically you can, right? But it just, you lose that property, you lose that honest look and feel. So that's important. And that's kind of like the challenging we are having in this tech industry as well. So as a CMF designers, we borrow ideas from different industrials, from lifestyle product, from, shoe industrials as well. So we borrow the ideas. We also need to know that you can only get out so much from one material. Every material has its own property you need to learn, you need to understand. So use material in an honest way is very important. Yeah, this is kind of our design philosophy.
I really like that. Honest use of CMF.
Yeah, that's nice. It's not masking anything. It's like really trying to bring integrity to the product. What areas of design do you think are sort of pushing the boundaries of what's possible in colors, materials, and finishes forward? Like, are there any industries that you really like to look at for inspiration?
Yeah, I'm always passionate about shoe industrial design, all those, really nice textile look and feel and how they make textile materials. We could learn a lot from there. It's a very lifestyle product industrial. And I think also how to make our highly tech product less tech, more human, more lifestyle, more accessible by normal consumers. Then you definitely need to borrow ideas from other industrials, the lifestyle, apparel, fashion, all those other industrials. See where you can find the right combination, where you integrate them together. But it's not easy, to be quite honest, because we have so many higher requirements, functional requirements, performance requirements for the tech product versus shoes, apparel.
Yeah, it's worth saying that even when you come up with material and have very elegant solution, especially in tech, the next step is to pass all bunch of reliability tests and requirements. And sometimes you also battle with that side of the cross-functional team. I remember working on a product that was fabric covered, and I was reading a report and it was flagged it's not passing because you can't remove the stains from makeup foundation. And I remember I think whole bunch of guys were responsible for it. And I just remember pinging someone that actually sometimes I can't remove the makeup foundation from my hand with the soap after applying makeup. That's how these cosmetics are being made. So you also need to be sure that you assess the product in a reasonable context of usage, not just trying to say, oh, by the way, there is something that could there is something that could damage it, and then you land just on plastic back again. So you need to navigate and make justification that we can go and do something more interesting, but it comes with trade-offs. But we need to be mindful, about the usability and what do we offer versus what we cannot provide.
Exactly. I think culturally, as a consumer, different material perceived differently, right? Different perceived value is different. If you use leather, of course, it's perceived as a natural, real material. And I don't think consumer really expect the leather to perform like a plastic. It's kind of like Margaret mentioned, just kind of like the challenges we are having in the tech industry from design perspective, how we can better align and collaborate with our engineer team and testing team to really define the right person field criteria. And when we evaluate those test results.
Yeah, absolutely. I had just a phone case that was cloth covered feeling, and yeah, it did wear out faster than plastic cases I've had, but I have to say that I think the trade-off of having my phone be such a pleasant thing to hold, or how much more cozy it felt most of the time, was sort of nice. And it was just a really, really simple weave that was still quite hard, but I really appreciated it. Why is the shoe industry so good at finding new creative ideas for colors and materials. I mean, I've noticed that as well. I think most designers have, but I don't really know what they are doing that's so different.
It's just my personal, I'm not sure if this is every designer thinks that way, but it's just my personally, I think shoe industry always give me a lot of inspiration. And also I think that's because my husband is a sneaker collector. So we
Nice.
always got very crazy when we get, you know, new sneakers and new shoes. Like, hey, we started to talk about the color they use, the technique of knitting process they are using, and how they make the fly knit, and because it's so intriguing, so
Yeah.
many details in textile. Every single change in like the yarn you use, the knitting process, the structures, the patterns, warp knitting versus weft knitting, you know, weaving versus, you know, circular knitting, all those stuff can deliver so different look and feel. It's not, it built on material and the process. To me, comparing to like say plastic, you got what you got, right? You got the plastic plug and you kind of like expect, okay, most likely it will look like this on your product. There's no significant change. However, textile is so intriguing, it's so different. Every single details can contribute to a very different look and feel overall. It's, I think the unpredictability really makes me excited.
Have your husband ever caught you trying to dismount his shoe?
Actually, he is a designer too. He's an industrial designer.
Oh my gosh. Margaret will want to talk to you. She has on a mission to get design couples in here.
Oh, yeah. Valentine's special.
Margaret, maybe you can just ask one of your most burning questions now.
Okay. What was the biggest fight about designing interior of the new house that you have?
Oh my God, believe it or not, I got these questions a lot of times from different people. Like, how can you designer couples design the house, the interiors? And surprisingly enough, we never fought on this topic at least. never fought. We respect each other's expertise, because really the way we approach design or aesthetic are very different. He approached design from the angle of form factor. I approach design from the angle of materials and finish that goes on the product, and you know what color I should use for the wall to paint my wall, what color of the the furniture I want to have to put into the bedroom or living room, so ever. So he leave all those cosmetic material color thing pieces to me, and I just leave all those architecture, structure, form factor questions, selection decisions to him. Yeah, we never
Perfect.
fought.
It actually just nests perfectly together. I love it.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is that our design philosophy are quite aligned. We like minimal design. We like anything simplified. So I think that's the fundamental thing. We align. That helps. If you come to my house, you won't see many colors. You will see very minimal colors and black and white colors. It's very simplified. The design of the furniture is not many stuff. I like the emptiness sometimes, in our house. Yeah. I don't want to fill out the space.
So that's key. You can date another designer, but you have to have your own lanes and you have to have the same taste. You can't date a designer with different taste.
That's right. That's the key.
It's like there's some kind of aesthetic horoscope.
That's the key.
Oh, I love it. Well, in previous conversations with us, you have also talked a little bit more about your family, about your decision to prioritize being a mom. I was just curious if you wanted to talk a little bit about the decision you first made and then how it felt to keep carving out that time for you and your child to be close.
I think that was the best decision I have ever made. To really spend time with your kid and see them growing up and also grow up together. I have to say that was the first time I became somebody's mom. That was the first time for him to become somebody's son. I have to say those 3 years, I learned a lot from him as well. We kind of like learn from each other and grow together. That's the best decision I've ever made. But definitely, it's a very hard decision to make, especially for women who has a very high demanding job, works in tech. It's very hard for you to balance work and family and make this decision because you also worried about like, can I go back to my career later? And is there any company accept me who paused my career for 3 years and now I decide to come back? I'm lucky, I have to say, I got back to my career and transitioned back smoothly. But I have to say, as a woman who works in the tech, we really need to support and encourage each other. And also, please never feel shamed if you need to pause your career for the people you love or for your family. Never feel shamed. That's the thing you should be proud of. And I think as an organization, please also support women and make sure their voice got heard and their talent got recognized, and then their opportunity to come back to their career after spending time with their family is not diminished. That's very important. We need that culture to support us.
I think you're like a great example of how looking at you now, like being manager, having whole team, giving a direction for one of the biggest tech companies in the world, how to develop materials for the products and how to be super successful in it, living in Seattle. And few years before, you were like a stay-home mom at Texas, driving around to like daycare and I know shopping in Walmart. I know you were beating yourself about it, and like probably more than someone else. You were judging yourself that I know being afraid if someone would ask you questions what were happening in this 3 years, but like given a chance, like you were still an amazing expert and doing a little bit nails and shopping here and there while having a baby, like didn't change anything. I think it's something people should constantly be reminded about.
Yeah, thank you, Margaret. Definitely. I think being a mom, you know what I developed? Two things I don't think I had before. One is resilient. And second, I'm more empathetic to other people. Yeah, we developed two very important skill sets, after the motherhood, after this experience. Of course, we should never feel ashamed of spending time or pause our career for a good reason, especially for the family and people you love.
Absolutely. And I think that when you encounter people that, do try to shame you about it, it's such a tell, right? Like you would never probably want to work around a company that was totally lacking in perspective on why somebody might pause their career to parent or take care of a parent or take care of just somebody that needed support, right?
Yeah.
What was it like for you when you started coming back? Did you actually encounter much of that negativity you were concerned about?
Yes. Honestly, when I just came back to my career, I was told by people like, probably you should not tell people you paused your career for 3 years. Don't tell people that you were a full-time mom for 3 years, without really giving me any context. But that already told me or signaled something to me, like it's a negative thing. It's a negative thing in this tech industrial work, for your career path progression, or it's something you want to hide. At least you don't want to, talk about that, which was not a good feeling, to be quite honest. And I kind of like, I did that. I didn't really say anything. I didn't really share my experience of, being a full-time mom for 3 years for quite a long time. technically, it was also very challenging and struggling time for the first, let's say, the first year after I came back, because definitely I had to catch up a lot of stuff. I don't think the industrial was changed dramatically, but definitely you have to catch up the information and you have to get your skill set back. It's still there. It's within, it's in you, it's boosted there, but you need to practice it every day because you were, you left for 3 years. You have to practice, you have to catch up, you have to speed on, and also learn how to balance the family, the kids, the job, and everything within very short timeline. Because I basically told myself, you have to speed on, you have to showcase that and demonstrate that you are capable. That was not easy for the first year, at least for the first year, maybe more than that. Yeah, but if I can do that, I think everybody can do it.
I don't know. You seem like kind of a badass, honestly.
But that's why I said I'm more resilient right now.
What was the turning point where you were sort of like, you know what, this is a really big part of my story and I'm gonna talk about it and make sure people know?
I think that's related to my confidence level. And confidence needs to be built up. And in order to build up your confidence, you need to practice a lot. But in order to practice, you need to get encouraged. So encouragement goes first, and then you could practice. And then after you practice, and you start to, your confidence level start to build up. I don't know. I don't think there was a clear boundary or turning point for me to say, oh, now I'm confident enough to say or talk about that. There wasn't a clear point, turning point. I think it's just naturally happens when I'm more confident after I came back to my job.
Yeah, I think also like sometimes it doesn't help how people joke about it, like what you do as a woman. I remember in previous job, I was going for lunch with my colleagues who I really like and they really appreciate me as a designer. But like we were passing by a nail salon, like, work week, noon, and like a whole bunch of ladies were getting their nails done. And my colleague looked at me and asked like, ha ha ha, what did you do wrong with your life that you have to work with us instead of sitting there getting your nails done? Which was funny, but also why do you joke about it? Like, it's like different lives. Why do you compare it? Obviously, I work with you because I like being industrial designer, not because I failed in my life, that I don't have a husband to pay for my nails.
Should have asked him what he did wrong.
So yeah, ask him back.
Do you think this is kind of like the problem challenging we are having as a female in the big tech company or industrial?
I think it's beyond tech, beyond industrial design.
Yeah,
definitely beyond.
Just being a professional woman.
That's being professional. Yeah.
The whole world.
The whole world. Yeah.
It feels like there's just no right answer, right? I think that it's an area where people try to act like women are very divided and attacking each other. But I think it's just because the societal pressure externally frames everything as the wrong choice, or everything as a sacrifice in some degree.
Yeah.
So when you're pulled in that many directions and there's no correct way, like, yeah, of course you end up just like picking a lane and sort of being like, okay, well, everybody can get on board with the rest of these decisions now,
Yeah, maybe getting, as we come to the end, getting back to the CMF quickly, how did you look for the job after that break? Question is, how do you make a CMF portfolio to go get the job?
You know what? I really enjoy putting my portfolio together.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you are a badass.
That sounds weird, right?
A superhero.
But I have to say that because my job, before I took the break, my job also gave me the opportunity I have so many visual assets. And because that's kind of like what we work with every day. So I wasn't a very difficult thing for me to pull back all those physical and visual digital assets and put the story together. But definitely, as a designer, we all have that problem that after you put your portfolio together today, you think you are done, but tomorrow when you look back, you feel like, oh, it's dated. I have to say the other thing is kind of like quite helpful is design is really a small world. I have to say everybody kind of like knows everyone, and then you have your network set up through the years of working in this field. People knows who you are. People know your value and your skill set. So actually, when I went back to my career path and joined the Sonos, there were some colleagues that from my previous job as well. We worked together before for years. That's helpful too.
What goes to a CMF portfolio? Is it like you showing up with the box of products you worked on? Or because it's different than industrial design?
The way I put my portfolio together is product by product. I focus on CMF narrative and story. I focus on the problem-solving process. Why we pick this color and what this material could do for us, what kind of problem it can solve. Of course, visual aesthetic is very important. We all know that, and you need to put it in a very pleasing way. That's kind of like related and go back to our previous conversation. And CMF is really not only about color, it's just only one piece of it. You have so many things you can talk about. Storytelling is very important in this field. It's material and finish. And also nowadays, I think sustainability become very, very critical as well. It's become a very heavy piece in our job. You need to clearly tell a story about your design thinking process, how you design the product for longevity from CMF perspective. What's your idea and story behind that? To me, like CMF design really need to aim for longevity for both color and material selection, because the longer the product gets kept in use, the less of them will end up at landfill. And at the same time, when you design the product, think about this circular design process. Understand where you source your materials. Understand how this material is being made during this manufacture process. Is it causing any pollutions? Is there a way to reduce pollution, VOC, and any negative thing to the environment? Use more and more recycled materials if you can, and understand the limitation there. There's definitely a downside of using recycled material from both cosmetic and functional perspective. And also think about it at the end of the day, is your product recyclable? How to recycle them? How you can do as a designer to make sure to increase the recyclability. Those are a lot of things you can talk about, and this can like become a very heavy piece in our, daily work and design thinking process. So if you look at my portfolio, visuals plus storytelling, and then we definitely have a lot of physical assets that we can show to people that we have been, collecting through years.
Struggling with waste was like the reason you moved out of engineering. So that feels like something you really get to impact these days in your job. That's really great.
Yes, I just want to make sure I talk about that clearly. Like, there's nothing wrong with the engineer job. That's our key partners as a designer. We cannot really make a product without partners, right? Nothing wrong there. I think it was really, I was lost when I visit the factories, when I visit suppliers, when I see all those tons of waste and plastic and parts got thrown away, accumulated at landfill. I just feel like, what I'm doing here, right? And instead of just trying so many different things that definitely as a designer you want, is there a clear vision around what do you want to get out of this trials? What do you really want to deliver? What's the vision there? What's the point of view? I'm not saying if you have a clear point of view, you can just go shoot the parts directly without any iterations, no trial. I'm not saying that, but it's at least that you can have a more focused effort to put into making the products. And also that's the way to be more efficient and effective. So I would rather spend a good amount of time to get alignment, to discuss, have a conversation, kick it off with cross-functional team to get a collective point of view first, and then really focus our effort in the iteration process with a clear vision. I just try to avoid a situation. Let's try this or that. Every time when I heard about something like that, I just question. I just question to the team or myself, like, tell me why first. And then we discuss about that.
So if a team that doesn't have a CMF designer or a CMF department and they just make do with the industrial designers that are there, if they find themselves faced with this sort of impasse where they're like, let's just try this or try that, and they're not really having these focused decisions, is that a time where the team could actually have this realization, we need to grow and have a CMF designer or create a CMF department? Or like, when is the point where you know we need this and we can't just have like ID people kind of hacking it?
I think faking it more than hacking it, if I
Sure.
I think the thing we are in common between CMF design and industrial design is we both need to have innate sensitivity for design, right? Design sensitivity, aesthetically. The thing I think differentiates us is the area of expertise. The area of the expertise we have, in addition to aesthetic and visual, is the knowledge of material and finish and technology. I think for a design-driven company, which really put the quality of design to their core, normally have CMF as an independent discipline, because CMF really sits at an intersection. We work with so many different cross-functional teams. It's really not only deliver a good aesthetic design, but also to deliver the right user experience by choosing the right material and finish. We are naturally, I think both of us naturally responsible for user experience, right? And we just tackle this task from different angles.
That makes sense. Companies shouldn't skimp. They should have a CMF department.
What?
What do you guys think? Is it secret question time?
I think it's question time. Why don't you knock it out?
Do we want to do Margaret's question? It has such a different weight and meaning for this episode, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, the question is, with all this knowledge and background, what is your personal favorite color?
My favorite color changes all the time. It depends on my mood, my emotion, and what's happening around me sometimes as well. So I have to say recently, I'm very into orange hue, because that color makes me feel happy, joyful, excitement. That's what I need, because based on what's going on right now around me, I need some joy. I need to be, feel happy. But normally, if everything is normal, going well, 99%, I go with white color. But white, technically white is not a color. It's an emotion as well.
Oh my gosh. So white is an emotion to you? Wait, you have to explain that more.
As an emotion. Yeah, I think black and white, both of them are very emotion. It's just reflect your feelings. And, Margaret and I, we used to make a joke, like, why every designer wears light color every day? to me, I think I'm just tired of making decision or making choice. I just go with like every day that's easy.
That's fair.
I think that's how I approach getting dressed, honestly. Our other standard question for the podcast, because we like to celebrate all the ways that our guests are special and unique and what they bring to design that only they can, we wanted to know from you what you think is your unique trait that you're bringing to the design world.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one.
You know, what would be missing from conversations if you weren't there at the table?
I don't think there's a thing that only I can bring into this field and nobody else can do that. I don't think there is such a thing. But I do think what makes me unique is my experience and backgrounds that I bring into this field. I'm not a traditional CMF designer. I didn't start my career as a CMF designer. I switched my career path a couple of times, but there's really a very good opportunity for me to experience the overall CMF design and development process to really shape my view to this field in a much broader way. I think that's how makes me unique or different. But again, there's no such a thing that can be done by one person.
You're selling yourself short.
I can add to it, working with you, that you're really good with asking the question why. And when you are not at the table, I feel like people tend to make, jump to make decisions without asking these questions about color and material much quicker.
Absolutely. Yeah, somebody there that's going to get the team not to just sort of be like, whoa, we all like this one. You know, I think that really does happen a lot, even with designers who should know that there should be more rationale to the decision making, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the big challenges I have been facing every day, to be quite honest. This is really a subjective field, and bring logic in there is not easy. It takes time. Yeah. And then you have to demonstrate the value of logic design thinking or strategic design thinking to the team repeatedly.
Absolutely. Well, we're really grateful for your perspective, and it sounds like your team is as well. We want to make sure that if listeners want to find you and you're okay with that, they know how to look you up.
Yes. How about maybe my LinkedIn?
Yeah. We'll put your LinkedIn in the show notes so that people can find you. They can also just look up your name. But yeah, it's Jackie Shyu. And then we are the Seattle WID team, and our website that Margaret lovingly built is beyondraypodcast.com. And our Instagram is WID_Seattle.
Thank you for sharing with me.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you for the conversation.
That was really
so
fun.
great having you today.
Awesome.